My name is Arthur Maxwell Powell II, and today we have my brother, Mr. Oscar Lopez-Huerta. This episode, Oscar Lopez-Huerta and I converse about confidence and tranquility, taking a knee and putting up his fist, protesting in Las Vegas in front of SWAT and LVPD, finding meaning in our darkest moments, mental health, and passing on our education to others. It is an honor to interview my brother, Mr. Oscar Lopez Huerta. He's a long friend of mine. Thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy the episode. Good day, everyone. My name is Arthur Maxwell Powell II, and today we have my brother, the man, the myth, the legend. We have Oscar Lopez Huerta. What's going on, my brother?
It's Tuesday, so second day of the week, still an opportunity to get things done, to get, good things out there. So I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be on here, man. It's awesome what you're doing. Happy to be the third person that you're interviewing ever. So it's exciting. It's exciting. This is exciting. Although the world right now is not super great, what we're doing within our own world is important. So I'm happy to be on here, man. How are you doing today?
Man, hey, I'm glad that you're here. Um, I'm just trying to stay balanced. I'm just trying to stay balanced. I've been saying that a lot lately because I'm not okay. I'm not good. I'm not great. But I think that the best way to explain how I'm feeling is I'm trying to stay balanced. I'm doing my best to laugh and to advocate, to smile and to uplift, Now, Mr. Lopez Huerta is a recent UNLV graduate, a graduate of the one and only University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Go Rebels. He had finished a degree in athletic training where he interned with a variety of sports teams from low-income high schools to Division I football. So, congratulations on you graduating,
Thank you.
Oscar.
Thank you.
He's been involved in several organizations that are based around volunteerism and activism. His time at UNLV sparked a drive to help people through difficult means, one on ones like working with an athlete to organizing events for students to joining a cause that's bigger than him. So we thank you for your activism, for your work, and for your witness.
Of course.
Um, I would like to start off with this first question. How do you define the word protest? I like words. Words are wonderful to me. And I think that a lot of times we self define words, and sometimes we might use words that we don't even know the real meaning to. We might use it out of context. We might use it just because somebody else uses it the same way or just because somebody else uses it in like a very polarizing way, that might not necessarily mean that that's really the meaning of that word. And so I like to ask you, Oscar, let's just start off with like this one word so that we get this one word out the way. How do you define the word protest?
Yeah, like you, I also enjoy words, and I like knowing what they mean, especially if I'm going to be using them during a conversation, a discussion, whatever it might be. So I always little secret. I before I use a word that I either use frequently or don't use it, but I want to make sure I give the right communication. I always look up the definition just to be sure that I'm on par, that my idea of the word is still in line with its actual reality, right? So with protest, for me, it is doing something, whether it's talking, whether it's marching, whether it's going up to city council, having a discussion with them. There are many forms of protest, but essentially it is doing something because whatever is going on, it doesn't sit well with you. Whatever is going on, it could be right now. It's the current Black Lives Matters movement, right? Protesting against many things. At the core of it, it's racism and an unjust system to a variety of people, especially of the Black community, right? So what we've been doing, right, is protesting. You're marching, you are talking. I'm posting a lot on my social media. I'm having conversations, difficult conversations with friends and family. because what's going on right now in this country and around the world doesn't sit well with me. I want people to know that it doesn't sit well with me, and I want to change this, because without a voice, excuse me, and without acting, things won't get done. You stay complicit and you stay complacent. The system, the act, whatever the problem is with whatever you're protesting, will stay the same. And if you want to change it, you will do something about it. And again, it's through different means. So I could be outside of my house in my front yard, just sitting down, ready for a conversation with somebody, or I could be joining a protest that'll be happening in a couple of days. Regardless, I am doing something to spark change. And although I could maybe do it on my own, and I obviously can't, right? But in an ideal world, if somebody could do it by themselves, great. It could be one person, it could be 10,000 people marching together, talking, posting on social media, signing petitions. Those are all forms of protest, because right now the current state of what's going on doesn't sit well with many people. And it won't change unless people have that drive and that emotion to be like, this is wrong, let's do something about it. And it all starts with just having that idea, like, I don't feel good with what's going on. What can I do? There are many outlets. And I think finding the right one for you is important, because any protest, it could be one person, like I mentioned, just having a conversation. It could be 10,000 people marching the streets. It could be a handful of people talking to the police department, to city council, to any form of government, right? To voice what is going on. So that's how I define protest. It's, you don't feel right about something, so you want to do something about it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Um, and I don't think that that's too far off from the definition that's in the Oxford or in the Merriam-Webster. um, so why did you decide to protest?
So I remember, it's crazy how it's been a week, but it feels like a month. Last week, with the unfortunate and horrible murder of George Floyd, rest in power, um, things sparked instantly in Minneapolis. And what's interesting is I remember Ferguson. I remember seeing the same images just in a different city, for the same exact cause, right? And I'm done with school, right? And I am also at a place in my own personal life where I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more motivated. I'm feeling more focused, and I'm feeling more of myself. Because the past 2 months have been really difficult. Completely off topic, but I seen those videos, and then I saw that Las Vegas was having a protest on the Strip, and I was like, I should be there, and I should. I didn't have a second thought. I was like, I need to be there, and I did. I went the following day. So it's not, it's simple, yet it's not, right? I just felt the strong emotion because I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. I've seen so many of the same things happen over the course of my, teenage years into my adulthood now. And the fact that I've seen, and I'm sort of, as unfortunate as to say, desensitized to all the violence that's going on. It's like, wow, this is not good for anybody. We're all going through a form of trauma right now, and my way of dealing with it is by doing something, because now I have the voice, now I have the capability, and you know that's it. Like, I just knew I had to be there, and that's as best I can explain it. It was one of the quickest things and most decisive moments of my life. Was like, I need to be a part of this right now, and it just felt right. I mean, at any point in time, it feels right, but for me, it was watching what's going on in the news and seeing on Twitter, and just everything was like, I need to be there.
Yeah. Um, how if you did, how did you prepare to go protesting? And I'm not saying like water bottles, masks, clothing. I'm talking about how did you if you prepared in this way, did you prepare in any way as far as mentally, psychologically, spiritually, like how did you prepare to go protesting?
Yeah. So let's see. This was, again, it's crazy. It was a week ago. I as soon as I was like, all right, I'm doing this tomorrow, which would be Saturday of last week. Um, I was just telling, I told my parents, I'm like, hey, I'm going, and they're like, okay, be safe. And I think at that point, it was such a, this is happening in Minneapolis. Like, what could go wrong in Vegas, right? Like, I think everybody who's been protesting in different parts of the world have kind of been like, we're just gonna go vocalize, we're gonna be peaceful, and what can happen, right? So I was fully aware of what could happen. I saw all the violence going on in Minneapolis, and I remember it from Ferguson and different cities that were having these protests. I didn't expect Vegas to go up in flames because that happened really fast in Minneapolis. But at the same time, I also understand that people are upset, they're angry, and they're hurt. So they're going to react in a way that's justified in their own eyes, right? So I was like, okay, what can happen? I can possibly get shot, right, by an onlooker, by somebody who's against the movement. I could definitely get harassed. I could definitely get, into a scuffle with the police or whoever. But that's part of what's going on, right? That's why we are doing this, because people are facing these things on a daily basis at times. So that didn't concern me as much. I I wasn't scared per se. I was definitely, anxious, and, I'm like, all right, what's going to happen? Especially because I went by myself. I was supposed to be going with friends, didn't meet up with them, but I was like, you know what? This is me, and I'm going to be with the people that are here. I'm going to be in the moment, and I'm going to make sure that people around me are safe. So I went into with a calm sense of, okay, I will be prepared for anything. I might not know what's going to happen, but as soon as it does, I'm going to do what I can in a moment. Um, so I was anxious, I was prepared, but most importantly, I was focused. I knew exactly why we were there. I knew what could go wrong, and I knew I had to be aware of myself at all times with what I said, where I was at, who I was with, but more importantly, why I was there. Why are we marching? Why are we chanting? Why are we staying up late? Why are we getting in the face of the police? And that's because we are not happy with what's going on in this country and in the world. And there has to be some sort of change. And there has been change. So that's how I prepared. It was very, like, even on the way there, I was with my dad and we were talking about what's going on and everything. And in every sentence, I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. And you get out and it's like, okay, it's just like a lot of people here, and that's it. And that's all it was. You know, I felt I felt calm once I got there. I felt confident in what we were doing. And no matter what would happen, I knew that I was there for the right reasons. And that gave me a sense of, this is going to be okay, at least for this protest. And then down the line, seeing everybody out there and everything, I had a sense of, things will change. I'm a small cog in the wheel, but nonetheless, part of something bigger than myself. And that, in the end, was what gives me the confidence and the tranquility to go through with this, that I know I'm a part of something. And every time I'm about to read something or post something or go to a protest, I always take a second to breathe, center myself, ground myself, because I sometimes do lose myself in situations, and I remember why I'm doing this. There is a moment that I will talk about later that really hit me, but I always reference that moment because, again, it's not just me. It's everybody. It's the people around me. It's the people in Minneapolis. It's the people in New Zealand, right? That's what helps me. It's the true focus on what I'm doing that prepares me for what's next.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you for explaining that. I wanted to piggyback or kind of dive into your experience with the protest. You had talked about you preparing. You talked about the drive there with your dad. You talked about your experience there. But can you touch a little bit on the ride home? Or getting home.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
So that first night, Saturday, let's see. I told my dad, hey, can you come pick me up? I was gonna drive by myself. I knew where to park. I've gone to down because we met at Container Park, and I've been to
Mm-hmm.
downtown several times. This is my spot, so I know where to park. And I knew with police presence and the fact that there's going to be many people there, parking would be limited. But I still, regardless, my parents were like, we can take you. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Be safe. I don't want my car to get, blocked off, vandalized for whatever reason, because, it's a possibility. Not saying that it's the movement, but we've seen police officers do it, so rather safe than sorry. I just got the car fixed. I was like, I'm going to keep it at home. So I told my dad, yeah, come through at 10:30. At this point, we were right in front of, not in front of, but near Container Park. And this was a standoff, the classic shot, protesters and police, right? And what we were doing, right, because I was there, people were just vocalizing their frustration. Yeah, we had people far, west, that were together, congregally speaking, and then we had a group of people who were starting to trickle towards the east. I forget which street it is, but it's right on Container Park. The standoff, right? People were yelling, they were talking amongst each other to the police. And at one point, we just see a group of police officers come by, and they had riot gear on. There was SWAT, sirens, lights, and everything. And so we knew something was going to go down, And the first things that started happening was people, or the police officers, would kind of get in a group of like 6 and lunge forward just to grab somebody. And we've seen these videos, right? People who are just talking, right, get targeted and dragged away like like an antelope from a pack of hyenas. That's what it looked like. And it was like, really? I don't even know what to say, because nothing was going on other than conversations. Obviously, people were angry, they were getting in their face and all that, but there were people at the front who were like, hey, keep calm. We don't initiate, we retaliate, right? But when they initiate, what do you do? When people were getting dragged away for just standing there, right? So people started, throwing water bottles and stuff, water and everything. It got a little out of hand. But again, who initiated, right? So not even like 5 minutes after like the first couple people were dragged away, they starting to CS gas. And I was on so we have the main, we had the confrontation here. So this whole group of people here, I was on the side because I didn't know I was going to get arrested. I obviously didn't want to, but I made sure that I was still there if people needed help. I brought a first aid kit because like I said, I didn't know it was going to go down. They started throwing the CS gas, and I didn't get a whole lot of it, not full frontal, but I got enough to where it just hit you instantly, right? And that's when everybody dispersed. Again, this was 10:15, 10:30. People were just talking, and police started to drag people away for whatever reason, and then they started throwing out the gas. And at that point, everybody dispersed, because if you've ever had, mace or anything like that, it's such a I'll say unique and very dangerous experience, because not only can you not breathe, you're coughing, but with the pandemic going on, right? People have to uncover because you're getting the fumes in, you're coughing into your mask, your eyes are watering. For me, at one point, I thought I was going to have an anxiety attack because my eyes were so on fire that I didn't know what was happening. Like I had to stop, but I didn't want to stop because what if the cops came up and just threw me down for no reason? I'm like, what did you know what I mean? So I gave this girl a water bottle of mine just so she can douse her eyes. And we were walking down the street back to where my dad's at because he was there. I was coughing. Some people were throwing up. Some people were just on the ground because they could not move just because their eyes and their mouth and even their lungs. Some people were affected, to that level. It was chaos. It was, it was scary. And there's people at one corner, I forget which street. She was hanging water, but I was like, hey, don't touch your eyes, make sure you rinse out the water, that way you don't drink it and drink the gas or the chemicals. And I was like, I took a video of it. I'm like, yes, this is what's going on. And at that point, it was about 5 minutes. I didn't get a full, exposure to it, thankfully, because I smelled like it, but all of the effects were gone. So I get in the car. Now I'm at the car, and my dad's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "Yeah, they threw gas," and he could smell it. He started coughing a bit. I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry." It's like, no, I mean, you did nothing wrong. And I didn't do anything wrong. I was with the people, having conversations with people. I was up front where the police were at, just looking at them, wasn't antagonizing them. There are many people with weapons who weren't doing anything. They had them at their side because they have the right, their Second Amendment right, you know. So that all happened in about half an hour from when people were starting to get a little more antsy with the police, to them starting dragging people away, to the gas, to me getting to my car. And the car ride home was just me frustrated. I was angry, and my friend was trying to pick somebody up, and I called him like, don't go there. There's a lot of police. They set up the gas. There's going to be some violence going on, because once you initiate, there's going to be retaliation. And I went home frustrated. I was flustered. And then it took me a whole day to kind of like go through it and be like, I was part of that. I was attacked, unprovoked. And fortunately, I didn't get arrested. Fortunately, I wasn't seriously hurt. But nonetheless, for me, it was like I was very close to that. And it doesn't necessarily bother me, because I knew there are sacrifices for what you do. But at the same time, I've never been in that position before. And to say that I was a part of that, a part of the violence, part of what the media hasn't been showing, and part of what the media has been showing, I mean, those were my thoughts on the way home. I was just a million, thoughts a mile. I was like, what am I doing? What's going on? What's next? And it was crazy. It was intense, but it was absolutely necessary, and I would do it again.
Yeah, that ties into my next question. My next question was going to be, has mainstream media and major news corporations reported on protests accurately? And when I say like major mass media corporations, I'm talking about the CNNs, the Foxes, the MSNBCs.
So I think the most accurate ones are those with reporters on the ground, because then you can see what's really going on. You have people chanting one thing, you have signs showing this, you have people just kind of walking around, you have people taking pictures for whatever reason. I think those are the most accurate, because they get to see. I mean, you get to see the fear in their eyes. You see, once they start shooting rubber bullets or paintballs, once they're throwing out the gas, they're like, okay, we gotta go back. They want to keep their cool because they're on live television. This is their job, right? They want to communicate what's going on effectively. But once that starts to happen, once the violence starts to occur, you can tell that they're scared, even though they're not doing anything wrong. We've seen, I forget his name. His first name's Omar, though, from CNN, get arrested live on TV, and he kept his cool because he had to, right? Especially of who he is. Imagine, I mean, we can get into that discussion too, but he kept his cool, was still talking, and the police did not care. We've seen accounts of senators and councilmen, be there, and they still get attacked, right? And we see these, and I as much as I like the news and everything, it's been exhausting listening to it. So I stay on social media with peers, with different sources of information, because there's where you see real videos of people there. There's where you see the actual stuff, because the media will only show you, all right, they start throwing the gas, blah blah blah, but then like people who are actually there, you get to see people getting arrested, being detained, being thrown down, being shot at, getting spat on. The media doesn't show you all that. And because they have left, right? And people who are still there have their phones because they choose not to, right? Maybe they're told we can't show this. I don't watch Fox News because I don't like Fox News, so I can only imagine what they're talking about. But from everything I've been seeing, I think I'm going to go back to the people who are on the ground are showing the most real. And again, that's only a partial portion of it, because they're not there until 1 a.m. They're not there when they're running from the cops. They're not there when they're being detained. The cameras are off or it's edited. So unless you have actual footage from people who are there, you're not getting the full picture regardless. You can only get a bit of it from the, on the boots, to put it lightly.
Mm. I know that this is a heavy question I'm about to ask. So I want to preface this question by saying that um, racism and systematic injustice and inequality is not going anywhere for the remainder of my existence on this earth, and probably for the remainder of your existence on this earth. However, what can we do to end or to fight against systematic racism in our society today?
So I will now talk about that moment I had, because this is where I found clarity in part of my life. This was on Monday, this past Monday. Protest, we walked from the Venetian. So for those who aren't familiar with the Strip, it's right in the middle of the Strip, heart of the Strip. It's if you're familiar with any European cities, it's a square essentially. There's like a big monument and stuff like that. It's a nice little hotel. But we started there, which is about 10 miles from our endpoint. We marched from there all the way to Container Park again, which is in the heart of downtown. Yeah, it was a lot.
That's far.
And
That's
it was
far for people that don't know. How many miles would you say that is?
that's about 10.
That
And but it's about 10 with, you're cramped with people. It was pretty hot, and you have to stop because there's stoplights, and
how hot was it that day?
it had to be at least 95.
See, and like people don't understand that Vegas is a desert. Let me explain something to you. Vegas has dry heat. This isn't heat that has water in it, okay? There's this thing called humidity that I didn't understand until I came to the East Coast of the United States.
Yep.
So listen, this is dry heat, okay? With people going 10 miles from the heart of the Strip during COVID-19 under this president who's a capitalist. You see what I'm saying? So, and this was during the time when the Strip was still closed. So I don't think the Strip opened yet, right?
This was Monday. What's the date? This was last week, was it? It was, yeah.
Because the Strip just went on phase 1 recently, very recently.
Wow, it's been 2 weeks. Sorry. Yeah. So last week, yep, the Strip officially opened up the 4th. We went on the 1st.
Yeah. So like the Strip was still empty, except for the protesters. So anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
No, that's good to provide context, because for many, this is for me. I've done the walk several. I mean, I've walked the same amount several times, whether it's inside a hotel or around the Strip. But for it to be this amount of people, and it was remarkable, and it was a very successful protest. But my friend and I were walking. We were at the front of the entire group at one point. Police were following us. They were just keep on the sidewalk, and obviously some people didn't. But everything was really, really good. Nobody looted, nobody did nothing, right? So at the very end, we get to Container Park, and some of the organizers are like, hey, take a knee and put your fist up and think about something. Think about, if you're religious, pray. If you're not and you want to be spiritual or whatever, just think about something. So I did that. And I'm not religious, but I definitely like to believe in something bigger than me. And I put my left knee down, put my right fist up, and I closed my eyes. And all the images of the people who have passed, all the images of the new generation of Black and brown bodies, kids, right? All that flashed to me. And it was this moment of like, this is about me too. This is about you, Arthur. This is about our kids, if we're going to have any. This is about people who have passed, who are still fighting. This is about everybody. Okay. And more importantly, right now, with what's going on against the Black community with the police, it is definitely about them. So I was thinking about them, and I was like, we have to keep going. We have to keep going. And I got chills, I was just like this, and I just got chills. And I was like, we have to keep going. And just more images of what can happen and what should happen just flooded my mind, opened my eyes. I was like, wow, this is what it is. This is exactly what it is about, and that's, to answer your question, I don't know the answer. I don't think anybody really knows the answer besides continuing these things. And I think there has to be a step approach, right? Because guess what? People who say the protests that turn into riots due to the police don't work, they work. They have been working for the past 2 weeks now, right? And once, and I like to think of this part as not necessarily the grieving process, but the hurt and the traumatic process of that. Once this is solved, because these initially started to get the officers involved in George Floyd's murder accounted for, right? And that's happened. All four have now
Correct.
been cleared. Now, from what I'm seeing on social media, Breonna Taylor's name, rest in power, has been floating around more often now, and they're trying to get justice for her too, right? So there are many small things that always lead up to something bigger, right? So this is how I'm seeing it. This is step one. It's protesting the recent events and getting things figured out. And guess what? That's happening, right? So once more of these start to work, which they are, the next step, which will be figuring out how to change the system, right? Because that is a whole revolutionary idea. Who knows how to do it? That's the unfortunate truth. There have been people who trying to pass things. There have been conversations with the government that have gone to nothing. There have been attempts at other protests that have worked and it didn't work. People forget Ferguson, but that wasn't 10 years ago. That was less than that, right? I believe it's 2014. So this is a constant battle because people thought back then it was going to work. It hasn't. And the unfortunate too is how many more of these needs to happen? None. The answer is none. Nobody else should die for this to change. But that's been the truth. More have died. So to answer your question, I don't know, other than continuing what we can do right now, which is what I've been doing, right? Signing petitions, donating, having conversations, trying to educate people. Because once people understand, right, especially those who are not affected by this directly, once they understand, that coalition gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I firmly believe that people should not be afraid of the government. It should be the other way around. The government should be afraid of people because we are more than the members of Congress, than the presidential, cabinet, than everything. We are collectively more people than that. And as long as you can rally around the same idea, because again, this is not red or blue. This is right and wrong. There's a distinct line. If people can get together, everybody can get together, fight for this cause right now, right? Then ideas start to pour in, resources can get, allocated, and a venture to changing something, right? Changing, whether it's a police department, whether it's whatever, I'm not too familiar with the justice system and everything because that's not what I studied. Now, what I'm learning is through people like yourself who understand these things, being a part of these movements, right? Being on the front lines and hearing people talk, that's how I've been learning, right? And I want to keep learning because that's how you find an answer to your question, is by learning, by banding together, by continuing these small steps forward, right? Because the next step, who knows, right? We didn't know what to do with COVID, right? Nevada did what they thought was best, and so far it's working, just like every other state's doing what they think is best. And as complicated as that problem is, racism is also a disease that is very difficult to eradicate because it is, right? It's unfortunately a part of humanity. Sorry, my phone went off.
Absolutely. No, I wanted to, you have said a lot of great things just now, but I wanted to highlight one part and ask you to dive more into this part.
Okay.
You had talked about the difference between a protest and a riot. I think that a lot of times the way that words are used can be can be more important than what the actual definition is. And like a lot of times people use the word protest in the same way they use the word riot, unfortunately.
Mhm.
You didn't do that, but I just wanted to bring that point up. Now, you said, or you had hinted at the idea that a lot of these riots are not initiated by the people. And I just want to clarify that not all riots are initiated by the cops and not all riots are initiated by the people. And riots are not the same thing as protests. Um, Now, I wanted to ask you this question. With that in mind, um, what are some things from your experience and from the experiences of people that you know that have been to protests? What are some things that are not shown on the news in regards to these riots, particularly how the riots start?
Yeah, so we can, and I think now lately there's been more evidence of this. We've seen officers that start striking people with batons because for whatever reason, right? There's no provocation. I've seen the video of the young man who's about 100 feet away from the police start talking, just calmly speaking to them. Officers come up, take him away, people start getting angry. So it's these moments that, to me, it's, and you're absolutely right, Arthur. We have people on both sides who initiate violence, and that's when the escalation from a truly peaceful protest becomes violent. um but from my experiences and from what I've been seeing, um I've seen more of the police instigating violence than the protesters, right? And it doesn't have to be outright, I'm gonna start, shooting rubber bullets. It's, I'm gonna break open all these water bottles. There have been reports of when somebody's carrying an injured person to the police because they offered to help him, they start firing at the people carrying the hurt individual. There have been reports of medical staff that have been attacked, that their equipment, that their little station, because guess what? People are going to get hurt and they're the help. Nurses, right? People who go from working with, a life-threatening worldwide virus, go out to help people who are fighting for a different virus, a different disease that is infecting this world. They start getting attacked too. So without provocation, I've seen videos lately of people who are going home, right? Not involved with anything. Their tires are slashed. They're stranded in the middle of the street. And it's like, you know, that's been coming to light. And that's what needs to be shown, because people are going to reference the whole bad apple thing. But I mean, I think the full thing is, a bad apple will spoil the entire basket if it's not, removed, right? And that's what we've been seeing. We're seeing officers that are okay with this, who will start it for no reason, who are giddy with excitement to start firing whatever it is.
Mm.
Um, so in the beginning, I felt that went largely unviewed. It wasn't expressed, but now people are getting more bold in recording these things and just showing it, and keep it, cycling through whatever, means it is, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, the news, right? um that's pretty much it. And I think it's coming to light. That's what's going on. All these small things, people were just talking about, oh yeah, I got spat on, I got my mask removed, I was detained without reason. People are like, well, what did you really do? They're going to question you. But then when you see it happening, on TV or on Twitter or YouTube, you start questioning, so what's really going on here? I thought, protesters were supposed to be violent. Like, no, like, we were walking, we did nothing. And then I remember at the protest last Monday, I already left by this time, but as people were going home, right, that's when the police started throwing their tear gas at. That's when they started arresting people. And I heard that from first, person accounts, people who were there, like, yeah, we're going home. And then they started, throwing stuff at us. Um, So I mean that wasn't expressed on the news locally, right, for obvious reasons, but that's what happened, and with time I think more of these instances, the little things that go on, like I saw a video of an officer spitting near or at a detained person. Like, really, more of that will start to surface because the bad apples have infected the rest of them, in my
Mm.
opinion.
Yeah, I mean, before I get to my last question, I just wanted to say that um, how do I even put this into words? Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for sharing your experience and your thoughts on this topic. I know that if this was happening to Hispanic people, um, I would for 400 years this would happen to Hispanic people. I would it would be tough for me to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how I would talk about somebody else, without me really like fully encompassing what they feel, or attempting to, I should say, with full sincerity. Um, I do hear the sincerity in your voice, and I mean, it's terrifying. Now, I don't want to take away the fact that people are racist towards uh Hispanic people as well. So let me just make that clear as well. But we are talking about Black America right now. Um, Now, I do want to shed light on the fact that you talked about bad apples, and me me personally, I'm the interviewer, so I shouldn't be even saying this, but I don't care. This is my show. Um, I don't think that it's really an issue of the bad apples. I think that we have an issue of just the whole the whole prison industrial complex. And there's quotas for a lot of these privatized prisons that are owned by corporations that are in association with other organizations and corporations. And so, um, you know, this country has been built on the backs of people who have done free labor involuntarily to this day. Um, Millions, in some cases, billions of dollars have been produced to this day from privatized prisons, and I think that that's why people want to defund the police stations and police departments, because you have to hit them where their money is, and that's really where like capitalists will start even paying attention. They don't care about anything until they have their money. Matter of fact, a lot of corporations had really got silent once Donald Trump came out saying that uh, the economy was getting better, which was a lie, by the way. So now, since it came out the fact that the Bureau of Labor Statistics was flawed for that trimester, um, a lot of people like Jeff Bezos and everybody started coming out and saying certain things. Now, I do want to highlight the fact that systematic racism and injustice and inequality affects everybody, even white people. You that is a virus that everybody is affected by, and it's off of the backs of the minorities, but particularly for Black people. And we have been building this country for free for white people for a long time, and not just this country, but really around the world. Just the whole African diaspora. But we're like right now we're talking about Black America. So I just wanted to highlight that because I go to Morgan State University and I'm a sociology major, and I have to. Now, my last question is kind of the opposite feeling of what I am feeling now, which is hope. um, So, what keeps you hopeful that our descendants will live in a better world? I will want to add to this question that um, I'm not talking about when like I asked you what keeps you hopeful that our descendants will live in a better world. I'm not talking about um like inevitably society will get better. Like I'm talking about like what specifically keeps you hopeful. You know, I know that one person that asked, not on camera, but one person that I asked told me that what keeps them hopeful was the fact that like the environment is communicating to humans now that we're like destroying it. And that's the same thing as like Black America has been uh communicating to the world about our oppression. And people are just now really caring about the environment to a substantial degree. It's kind of like how people globally are really caring about the systematic racism and injustice against Black people to a significant degree. Um, so with that, what what specifically keeps you hopeful that our descendants will live in a better world? Is it these protests? Is it the children? Is it our education? Um is it like the advances in technology for us to have communication from people from like across the nation, across the world? What specific thing keeps you hopeful that our descendants will live in a better world?
It's a good question because I think I can kind of answer everything you just said in a certain way. So you mentioned that, my sincerity for this cause, even though I'm not Black, right? I don't have the same, I will never be able to understand the fact that I can try my best to, even though I can never do it, the fact that I can be an ally, I can be out there and I can do what I can. The fact that white people are doing that too, those who are very privileged, right? And not just because they're white, for monetary reasons, for educational purposes, whatever. But once they start understanding, right? Again, they will never be able to truly empathize nor understand. But if they can be an ally because they recognize that this is wrong on every level, that's what gives me hope. It's the understanding of things. It is the fact that 50 states last Monday had a protest, and I don't know how many countries did too. The fact that and I mentioned the bad apple thing earlier because that's what many people like to use, right? I don't like using it because I think I agree with you completely. It is not apples, it is the system. It is the complex that has been built to oppress, right? People are starting to understand that now. People are seeing that now that you have an unfortunate death of a young white female due to tear gas, right, which is confirmed. Uh, People are like, wow, the police are now indiscriminately doing this, right? And people, who might not see more than what they see around them, will be like, well, so this has been happening to my friends for so long, to their parents, for hundreds of years. And this just now happened to me. Like, I will never be able to understand that, right? I just had my friend pass away, but I've had people who have had their families taken away from them for no reason, right? So for me, what gives me hope is understanding and educating yourself. Because I actually had a really unfortunate discussion with a friend that I don't talk to anymore because I try my best to communicate what's going on, right? And there is always a refute to a fact. There's always a refute to something that is very personal, right? So people like that will don't give me hope because then it's like you're just feeling the problem. You're not facing reality. But for those who have been like, you know what, I'm super for cops, I'm Blue Lives Matter, but then they start understanding what that really represents, right? And they start understanding that a blue life is a choice and a Black life isn't, you know? Once they start really understanding that you can't say all lives matter until Black lives do, that's what gives me hope, because then you have people who were against it or not fully understanding, right? But again, I'm going to go back to, once you rally the people for a cause, right, and you start organizing, which has happened, and things start to change, you can only keep the momentum going, because people will be like, I get it now. And whether it's an apology, whether it's an action, what they're communicating now is like, I get it. And they will continue to fight, because this is people, this is our age, man. This is people our age who are out there and younger. I've seen the video of the little girl who's chanting, no justice, no peace. I've seen the picture of the little boy out of his sunroof in the car just with his fist up, chanting and being proud of who he is. That's what gives me hope, because we can only continue this fight. Because you're right when you said this earlier. Racism might not end, might not ever end, right? Especially in our lifetimes. Uh, so we can only, this will have to continue, and hopefully, and I really hope that no more deaths on both sides, right? Because a life lost is a life lost, right? Have to occur for these things to happen. But that protest continue, that signing petitions, that communicating, and that eventually more and more people will start to let go of their preconceived notions and open their eyes to the rest of the world and not look just directly in front of them. Because many people have the privilege to turn off the TV, right, and go about their day and not worry about it. I have friends who can't sleep. I can't sleep sometimes. And between studying for my certification exam and this, it's been really hard, because this is bigger than me. It's also involving me in many cases. So it's like, there's this, it's a real thing. It's not just, I'm gonna turn off the TV and ignore. We can ignore the rioting that occurs after somebody's football team loses or after they win, right? Because that's happened, and we look at it like, oh, ha ha ha, you're destroying public property. The guy's on a lamppost about to jump off. Okay, cool. We don't bat an eye to that. Police go in, clean up, or whatever. But when this happens, right, you can't turn away. You have to listen, you have to talk. And if you don't understand, and I'm very happy for the people who have openly said, I don't understand and I want to learn. That is not saying, oh, Black lives never mattered to me. It's like, I did not understand the gravity of what's going on, and now I want to, because this is bigger than me. This is bigger than my privilege. So to those people who are doing that, that's what gives me hope, right? Because people can change. And hopefully they're not racist to begin with, but those, again, who aren't super informed and educated, that say, I want to be, because this affects me too. These affects, in regards to athletic training, my athletes, right? I mentioned, the moment I knew I belonged to this profession was when I was interning at a local high school that had predominantly Black athletes, that was 80% Latinx, right? A true minority school that nobody batted an eye to. Nobody wanted to hear these kids' stories, but I heard them all. And those are my 2 cents regarding athletic training, but I do know that I can be an impact in that realm, that I can be a source and a voice for those who are unheard, because that's what it comes down to in the end. People are speaking out after so many years of not being able to speak out, right? And people who have been against it or who didn't fully understand are now speaking with them. And a movement can only continue with more and more people. So that's what gives me hope. And hopefully the goal, right? The perfect world is where everybody's like, we are against racism. We are against systematic oppression. We understand that history cannot be unwritten, but that what comes next can absolutely be, a justification, and can be right for everybody. Right. So yeah, in a way that gives me hope, but it's hard, because you said earlier, we're not okay right now. I like to think that I had a good day yesterday, but in the end, I go to bed thinking, I just sigh with everything. And it's hard to stay hopeful in such a dire situation, between the pandemic and between the ongoing problem of systematic racism. It is tiresome, right? It's not tiresome to be Black. It's not tiresome to be Latinx. Racism is tiresome. And being hopeful at times is really difficult. But we had a conversation earlier about an author who described his time in the Holocaust, you know, and that is a perfect, not a perfect example, but as an example of what things lead to, right? When a system that's been in place and people follow it, mass murder, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
But
yeah. Like the book that I was referencing was Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Victor E. Frankl, Frankl. Dr. Victor E. Frankl. Yeah, wrote this book called Man's Search for Meaning. Look it up. Anyway, go ahead.
no, so he described how he had to find meaning in the darkest moments of his life and of many people's lives, and that's what kept him alive, you know. And I've also seen, I saw a picture on Twitter of a elderly woman who was I think she was Auschwitz survivor who was driving alongside protesters, and she's like, you know, she essentially said, "Give them help." You know, showed the picture of her tattoo on her forearm. It was like, you know, give them help, let them know what's up, and that's reignites the hope. The fact that unfortunately there have been people that have suffered greatly and still keep going because they know that their cause is bigger than themselves, that it's for the future generations. It is to justify so many things, and it's to honor those that we've lost due to this, right? Because people can't die in vain at the hands of law enforcement, you know, for unnecessary reasons.
Mhm.
It's a balance of being really this is going to be really hard to, you know what, we have to keep going, you know. And I like to think that I'm a bit more hopeful than I am, you know, upset and disappointed in the world.
That's beautiful. I mean, um, I saw a protester. I saw a picture of a protester on social media. They had a sign that said, "You want our rhythm, but you don't want our blues." And um, when we think about the history of America, not just for Black people, but just for any indigenous group or any group of people that are minorities, quote unquote, right now, um, a lot of times the white supremacist mindset has been to take the fun things and to leave the sorrowful things. And so we let me just close by saying these few points. um, we have much work to do to change the hearts and minds of those who are affected by the virus of white supremacy and racism. Um, and we um, we have a moral, a civil, and a spiritual obligation to advocate for those that are disenfranchised, that are poor, that don't have any voice in the world. Now we do have Oprah Winfrey's. You see what I'm saying? We do have, you know, Robert Smith's. Like we have millionaires and billionaires. Okay, those are the vast minority of us. That's the vast minority of the minority. That's less than 1% of Black people. Even though Black people are like what, like between 10 to 20% of the U.S. population. Well, I think we're like closer to 15% population. We make up 60% of prisoners in America. And I mean, I can go into birth defects with Black women. I can go into educational disadvantages where our ghettos are built for us to live in. I can go into our environmental injustice where our ghettos are built next to power plants and chemical imbalancing environments that have an effect not just on trees and stuff, but also effect on buildings and effect on the air that we breathe, which affects our body structure and our mind and our impulses and our electrical functioning in our brains. So I can go that route, but the overall thing is that we in anything that you talk about, whether it's with food, education, justice, equality, healthcare, we are oppressed by the system of white supremacy, and that's what we're talking about. Like, we're not just talking about police brutality. We're not just talking about just the people who killed George Floyd. We're not just talking about the bad apples that are in the police that are policemen. We're talking about the fact that the police are not here to defend the people anymore. They're here to defend property. They're here to defend money. And whenever you have a system that values people over profit, that is a unjust system. That is a inhumane system. That is a immoral system. And so we are exhausted. We are tired. Fannie Hamer, the great philosopher Fannie Hamer, said that she is sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know, she is exhausted, and you know, rest in power to her. Now we are exhausted. This has been happening to us for 400. It's been happening to us for centuries. Now, even though we are exhausted, like my brother Oscar said, I'm hopeful, and I'm excited for the future. You know why? Because I have, you know, God gave me God had the unmitigated nerve to grant me the opportunity to help fight against this. And not just for my ancestors, not just for the people who came before me, not just for people that are living today, and not just for people that I'm going to see in the future, but I have an opportunity to make a change, or to help make a big change for the descendants that are coming after I'm long gone. There are hundreds of thousands of names of people of all races that have fought against systematic oppression throughout the history of America for the benefit of Black babies that they never saw. And that's how I'm looking at it. And I think that's what's really missing. I think that in the early stages of American society, when you read the history of America, it was really about the communal effort. It was about, you know, it was really this in Africa, there was a country, I forgot which country it is. It might be Ghana. I may be wrong, but there's an African country where they have this African proverb that derives from like this word, Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because we are. You know that Descartes had believed and taught. Descartes had taught. I think, therefore I am. That's like the whole Western. That's like the Western philosophy way, and that's what I was taught at Shadow Ridge. But when you read African philosophy, they say Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because we are collectively. And I think that we need to get back to an understanding that whatever affects me affects my fellow brother, my fellow sister. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that injustice anywhere is a threat. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so he has said that in the letter to Birmingham Jail, by the way, which is a very good letter. So I wanted to say that I am excited because I have opportunity to help people understand, to help teach, to help ignite the souls of those who have been just surviving and not living, you know, and to help people understand that your life is not just for you. Like, it's not really even about you, honestly. Like, when you look at like the context of your life is really about how you affect other people and how you provide for other people. And when we get to that type of understanding and that type of mindset, I think that we'll have a better world, not only for people that's living today, but for those who will come way after us that will say, you know what, man, I don't know those people's names that fought for me. I only know a few people. I only know, like, Ida B. Wells. I only know Eleanor Roosevelt. I only know, John Brown. Like, I only know like a few people's names. Like, I don't know a lot of people's names in history. But I know that there are hundreds of thousands of unnamed people who fought for the right for me to vote, who fought for the right for me to have an equal education, who fought for the right for me to travel legally, who fought for me to have the right to walk around and not fear of to not fear lynching or going missing or things like that. A lot of these things still happen. There is still discrimination. There's still injustice. There's still inequality. But like you said earlier, Oscar, we are making progress. There is no strong argument to say that we haven't made progress. Progress has been made for Black people in America on all fronts. There are more Black vegans now than ever, more Black vegetarians now more than ever. There's more. I mean, even Black women are graduating at a higher rate than any other demographic in college. So we are getting a lot of education. We are living in better communities. A lot of us are having more money and more resources and things like that, being able to travel more and experience life more, things like that. However, we have a long way to go. And our job is not to highlight those that are the Oprah Winfreys and the Gayle Kings. We have to highlight the Shaniquas and the Tyrones. You know what I'm saying? Because that's most of us. Most of us are down there at the lower pits of society that are systematically oppressed on a very, very, very high level. Those that are at a very low standard of socioeconomic status and influence. And so, with all that being said, we have the civil, the spiritual, and the moral obligation to help write a new future for future generations to come. And I'm excited about that. Thank you so much, Oscar, for coming for this interview. I really appreciate it. If you would like to say anything else, you feel free to share anything. You can share like a quote, a charge, an idea, anything.
I'll say that you've given me more hope now, because you're right. It's not our lives are meant to affect people in the best way possible, and it is not for you and I. It is for those to come years from now, because you're so right. There are so many people that have fought for you, for me, for so many people that we don't know their names, unfortunately. And we might go down the same way, right? And and I think you will agree with this too. That is okay, because we are doing the right thing. You put it right on the mark: moral, spiritual, and civil obligation to do what's right for us now, for those to come, and to honor and respect for those who have done the same thing for us. So I too am excited. Balancing is difficult, but we just got to keep going. Si se puede.
With this, now I want to say this before I end this. Take care of your mental health, okay? Take care of your mental, especially if you are Black and you're seeing your Black brothers and sisters getting killed on TV all the time, over and over, repeatedly, every single day, every single hour, all the time. Take care. Distance yourself. It's like we're already social distancing, media distance or mass media distance. Oscar just threw his phone. So distance yourself because you need to. Like, it's not like you have an option. In order for you to have a healthy mind, a healthy spirit, okay, you have to set boundaries for yourself, especially when it comes to seeing people get killed all the time, because it will have a traumatic effect, consciously and subconsciously, on you, and also it'll come out in other areas of your life that you won't even know, because it's just naturally coming out. Whatever is sown into you, something something waters it. Okay, something waters it. And so we have to be mindful that there are subliminal messages that are put out through mass media. And you have to be smart. You have to be educated. I'm not saying formally educated. I'm saying that you need to know thyself. A good book on that is by Dr. Naeem Akbar. He wrote this book called Know Thyself, and he talks about psychological effects of seeing things over and over again. In sociology, we call that symbolic interactionalism. But anyway, just know that this has a significant effect, not just on the way that you think, but your thoughts become actions all the time. And those actions are very important. Take heed to your ancestors, take heed to your grandparents, your great grandparents, because I never had any of my grandparents. They all passed away before I was born. So take heed to them, listen to them, honor your ancestors by advocating for your descendants that will come after you die, because they, the same way that my grandmother and great grandmother and great grandmother had sacrificed for my great grandchildren, that's how I should be thinking. I should be thinking, hey, I'm sacrificing to have a better world of no racism, of no inequality, of pure justice, pure love, pure peace. What Reverend Dr. Cornel West said, Dr. Cornel West said that love is what justice, no, what did he say? He said justice is what love looks like in public, or the other way around. And so that's what we ought to strive for. We should strive for justice through love. That's what, that's what Jesus did. Now look, I'm not an ordained minister. I'm not a preacher. But one of the most important things I learned in church is that our lives can be the only Bible that anybody reads, or that somebody reads. Our lives can, in many ways, be the only Bible that many people read, because many people don't want to read, or can't read, or don't have the opportunity to read, etc. But our lives are liberating and inspiring to others. So don't take your life for granted. Don't take this day for granted. Every day is a day of learning and growing. And don't be afraid to take a day to work on yourself, because when you work on yourself and you are healthier, that is better for the community, because then when you actually go advocate, or you go write, or you go read, or you go exercise, or whatever you do, you are in a better place to do that. You are physically more able to do that. You are mentally in a better mindset to do it. You are psychologically in like a better mind frame to do such things. So I don't want to exhaust the point, but I am excited to help people get to a level of understanding, so that we understand the plight of Black people from the voices of Black people, and we help Black America, live in a better society, not just for our ancestors, not just people that are living, but for future generations. Thank you so much, Oscar, for being here, Mr. Lopez. Mr. Lopez, hold on. Lopez, I almost said Huerta. I almost said it. I almost said that. I almost did. But you know what? Something caught me. Something was like, you know what? Don't say that, Arthur. Don't say that. Huerta, that's what it is.
There you go.
So, Mr. Lopez-Huerta, aka Oscar the Shark Slayer, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I made this longer than what it could have been, but I don't care. This was a really good conversation, and somebody needed to hear everything that you said. Somebody's going to be inspired by what you said, Oscar. I really appreciate you being transparent with everything that you said. Please, if somebody was inspired by what Oscar said, you have the I am demanding, I'm not even asking you, I am demanding you to do something with that energy. You know, I started this podcast because I was upset of seeing two different narratives. One narrative being on mass media that's almost completely contrary to some people's experiences at protests. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just create a podcast to where I can just ask protesters their point of view on these questions. Because I think that these questions are like very important to the context of what's being put on mass media. And you know, so do something with that energy. You have to. Like there is no like, oh well, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the energy. Literally, you know who doesn't have the energy? Emmett Till. You know who doesn't have the energy? Tamir Rice. You know who doesn't have the energy? Like George Floyd. You see what I'm saying? So you have to. You have to, because Breonna Taylor is dead. And like she still hasn't gotten justice. You know what I'm saying? Because there are literally hundreds of thousands of Black people who are in prison right now off of minor charges, or are in jail right now because of marijuana charges that are legal now, or you know, just literally are being suffocated by oppression because of these jail quotas, which does not have anything to do with somebody doing something illegal. And so, and then there's also unjust laws on top of that. That's not even laws that are just. So anyway, thank you so much, Oscar. Anybody that has been positively affected by Oscar's words, you have to do something. You have to do something to understand and to help other people understand the plight of Black people in America, not just economically, not just spiritually, not just environmentally. Literally just listen to what Black people are saying. Listen to the cries. Listen to the blues, okay? Listen to what our experiences are. You can look at stats. Stats can be manipulated, okay? But sometimes stats are good. You know what can be, but like what can't be manipulated is somebody's experience of being tear gassed, of being beat down. I just read an article last night about how a woman was literally in a crowd in Austin, Texas, and she was pregnant, and the police literally shot in the crowd and hit her. What's even worse is there's a picture of her with guess what? The cop is having his knee on her head, and she's pregnant. This happened a few days ago. A black woman. You see what I'm saying? So with that being said, I'm hopeful because there's people that's not even Black like Oscar who want to understand more, because Oscar knows that he's never going to fully understand the plight of a Black person, you know what I'm saying? And I'm never going to understand the full plight of a Hispanic person, you know what I'm saying? Let me just be clear. But right now we're talking about Black America, and I'm hopeful that we will have a better future because of people like me, but also people like Oscar. Because Oscar is a person that seeks more understanding, seeks more education, not just formal education, but conversations, tough conversations, getting real information from the people that are on the front lines, having difficult conversations not only with like friends, but with family, with peers, with mentors, with the community. And so, Oscar, I love you. I appreciate you, my brother. I'm gonna go ahead and end this recording. Thank y'all so much for listening. If y'all want to subscribe and comment all that, look, I've been big on that. All right, look, if y'all want to like for the YouTube algorithm, you know what I'm saying? If y'all want to comment suggestions, because sometimes I can be long-winded, and sometimes you want me to talk. I mean, I don't know. So just comment just like good suggestions. And if they're bad suggestions, I'm gonna just delete them. And then also, Also, whenever you get some good information, try to share it with somebody else, not just this podcast, but whenever you get some good information, try to share it, because what's the point of being educated if you cannot pass it on? What is the point of being like knowing without teaching? Knowing without teaching is walking around like a zombie. So we have to teach. Matter of fact, teaching and learning go hand in hand. The more that you teach, the more that you learn. The more that you learn, the more that you teach. So I don't even think that people that know a lot really even know a lot. I mean, because when you know a lot, there's something inside of you that tells you that you have to pass this on to somebody else. Thank y'all so much for listening to this extended podcast. Really appreciate it, Oscar. And have a wonderful day. Tell somebody Black that you love them. Support a Black business, a Black author, a Black something. and let's keep the spirit of peace, love, and understanding going. All right, thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the Why We Protest podcast. Like, subscribe, share, but most importantly, comment on this video and let Oscar Lopez-Huerta know that his transparency is appreciated, that you're proud of him, and that he was very insightful. In Zora Neale Hurston's acclaimed novel, Their Eyes Are Watching God, she writes, "If you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. Always speak up for what is right. Happiness, health, love, and peace."